Hello and welcome to the 2016 by-election bubble debate question and answer session. We have here one of the Finance and Commercial Services Executive Officer candidates, Ben Russell. Ben, would you like to take 30 seconds to introduce yourself and just briefly pinpoint your manifesto?
Hi guys, I'm Ben. I'm running to be your next Finance and Commercial Services, as stated. Basically, I just feel that the way that the finances has been run focuses very heavily on how we can improve the union, and I'd like to take that forward in making the process that we use, improving them. So far, what I put in my manifesto, as you may have or may not have seen, is that I want to integrate online banking and improve the data that we use through the loyalty card scheme. They're my two main points, I'd say.
Okay, so now what we've got three specific questions tailored to you. And then two overall questions for you to answer. So your first question is, transparency of expenditure is always important. However, the union has a £12 million turnover and many complexities. How do you plan to make this easily accessible to all students?
Okay, to make this easily accessible to all students, I feel the first and most important thing to do is to break it down, take it out of its current financial format, which not everyone will be able to read. Coming from a financial background and having done my year in industry working entirely with figures, providing data for companies, I feel like I can probably do this quite effectively. The main thing that I'll be looking to do would be to analyse the various revenue streams we've got, various incomes and costs, and then subdivide them into categories that can sort of link together so everyone can appreciate what they are for. Once I've got these broken down, I can then analyse the effects that they have on each other in the union. And going from there, I can provide a breakdown for everyone to look at and hopefully understand.
Okay, thank you, Ben. We're now going to move on to your second question. So here it is. Online banking with hall departments, societies and sports clubs is underway. Societies and sports clubs are dealt with in their sections. So what would the integrated online banking systems entail for the departments and halls? Halls are obviously independent to LSU and the university, so we do not have total jurisdiction over them. How would you get uniformity across the 16 halls we have on campus?
Right, so the main process that I've got in my mind for this to work is to have a process by where all of the halls conform to the same banking structure. I know they currently do this with the check system, however, it would be a simple transition to move from this checking system to an online banking system. As we all know, the checks are becoming redundant every day. So I feel it's really important that we do make this move onto online banking. Having been on committees, I understand how the financial structure of these work. So what I begin with is creating an online account for all 16 of the halls, and then from there dividing it down to see who's got the authority to have access to these accounts, which they can then look at, which would probably be the treasurer and the hall chair. But it would mainly be controlled by someone higher up in the union, for example, Finance and Commercial Services. So all transactions that had to happen could be signed off if they were deemed too big to let the students carry out on their own.
Okay, thank you, Ben. Okay, so your next question is about to come up. So, a particularly important part of your job is you will be in charge of the discipline policy. Now, there are two parts to this question. Can you provide examples of how you have to act independently and confidentially of your peers? And moreover, how are you going to ensure that disciplines do not take up a large period of your time in office over the year?
I'm really sorry, can I just ask you to repeat that? I just lost the line slightly.
Yeah, of course. So there's two parts to the question. Can you provide examples of how you both have to act independently and confidentially of your peers? And moreover, how are you going to ensure that disciplines do not take up a large period of your time in office over the year?
So to start with the second part, to start with the latter, to make sure that it doesn't take up too much time in office over the year would be, in my opinion, just a case of being able to divide up my time and allocate certain slots during the week where I deal with such disciplinary matters. Again, having done my year in industry, I'm quite used to juggling many different jobs at the same time. So I don't feel like this would be too much of an issue, having, say, a set time each week to deal with these issues. And I'm really sorry, but if I could ask you to repeat the first part of the question again.
Okay, give me 2 seconds.
No problem.
Okay, so the first part of the question is, can you provide an example of how you have to act independently and confidentially of your peers?
So an example of that would be if I had a friend who for example, had done something wrong in the union, was maybe, as an extreme example, caught with drugs with substances on them on a night out or something, disciplinary matters would have to be taken regardless of this student's status. They would have to be treated as one of the students. They get disciplined the same way as everyone else, regardless of whether I knew them or not.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Ben. So your next question is, how do you plan to show the university and students that the extra grant money received from the university is being spent accordingly? Now, this digit is roughly over £100,000.
Okay, the main way that I'd show that is to, first of all, figure out what we were spending it on. And once we decided that, as I've mentioned in a few of my points as well, any decisions made as to what we're spending money on in the union, I would like to have an open forum debate for people to be able to comment on and to put their own points of views across so that we can decide as a group what would be best for the university. But having done that, the best way to show it would be, for a start, to show the results that they're getting. So making sure that what we are investing our money in is a tangible result that everyone can see and be part of. And secondly, just by keeping everyone up to date. There's the Loughborough website, which is amazing. We can use that. And as I've said, there's loads of places around campus which we can display what we're doing. The financial breakdown, the transparent breakdown of expenditure, that will be included in that. So everyone will have access to the information.
Okay, brilliant. So now the final question for you. So what we have is, we already have fantastic hardware in place that run our promotional data material, and the software is always improving. What specific bits of data are you wanting to use over the year? How can we make students more valued at LSU and increase their expenditure whilst not exploiting them?
So what I would be planning on doing is having more targeted promotions towards students that would actually affect them. So mainly looking at, rather than just generic students as a whole, looking at different demographic within the student populations. So for example, a really easy example of this can be dividing students up into their halls. There's 16 different demographics across campus which we can, I wouldn't want to say exploit, but which we can use to their advantage to give them the deals that they want. If we can analyse some trends from different hall expenditure, if we can analyse trends from even different clubs and societies, we can then use that knowledge to give them better deals, to give them better promotional deals, and just to basically try and entice them to come out more, in a sense, or even just to do like discounts on things in the shop and everything. For example, if you're probably living, as a more specific example, in Towers, and well, not necessarily Towers, but in Butler, Towers, that sort of area, chances are you're going to be going to the union shop to buy your food more often than someone over in the village. Targeted promotions could mean that those students benefit from having discounts more often because they're going there more often.
Okay, brilliant. All right, Ben. So now that's the end of your questions and the end of your Q&A session.
Right.
I'll give you
Cool.
15 to 30 seconds just to explain why people should vote for you, and then we'll leave you to it.
Cool. Right, so I feel like you should vote for me if you want someone who's got experience, someone who has done a year in industry and studies banking, finance and management. Mainly, having done this year in industry, I feel like I'll have a good understanding of how not only to best keep the union's best interests in forefront, but also how to manage my time effectively to carry out the roles that I need to be able to manage everything, and to just not get inundated and actually carry out the things that I've got in my manifesto.
All right, brilliant. Thank you, Ben. So that is your candidate for
problem.
Finance and Commercial Services Executive Officer, Ben Russell. Voting opens at 9 a.m. on Thursday and closes at 4 p.m. on Friday. Make sure to vote to find out who your next Finance and Commercial Executive Officer for 2016 and 17 will be. Thank you for listening.